Today I want to talk about Generation 10 as a soft reboot of the franchise. Big shout out to my friend Kedzie for this idea. What I'm talking about, right, is Pokemon Black and White being a spiritual and in some ways a literal soft reboot of the Pokemon franchise. I think, a nice something that I appreciate. It's subtle. Is that this the titles of these games literally return to colors. Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow are colors for a long time. These Pokemon games were not colors. They were I guess you could say gemstones, etc. No one talks about this. Black and White are colors, but the Pokedex of Pokemon Black and White, we got over 150 new Pokemon for the first time since Generation 1, and this game has this Pokedex has a lot of accusations of Pokemon being one-to-one remakes of the archetypes and the literal types or the animals and creatures that the Generation 1 Pokemon were based on, but now remixed into brand new designs. What's an obvious example? Other than the normal tropes, you got Pokemon like Roggenrola. This is a 3-stage rock type similar to Geodude, right? You got a 2-stage bat that is similar to Zubat. You got a 2-stage ground type mole that is similar to Diglett, right? Do I need to go on? Timber, fighting type, 3-stage, trait evolution, Machop, right? Time Pole is like poly, what is it called? Wag, right? Throw and Sock, unrelated fighting types that are counterparts like Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan. You get it, right? And the really cool idea that I, again, did not think about myself, but shout out to Kedzie for bringing this up. But he had suggested, he was like, it'd be really cool if in Generation 10 we got a new, I think he said like a new horse Pokemon. And then he was like, well, they can't do that because they've already done, Ponyta, for example. And then we started talking a little bit, and I was like, you know what? That actually is not crazy. Generation 5 was a turning point. Generation 5 was, the first game outside of Japan. Like, it was the first Pokemon region that wasn't based on a Japanese, land. They were trying to emphasize, right, biodiversity. They were trying to emphasize this idea of, Pokemon filling the same niches but in different locations of the world. And from what we know about Generation 10, right, I'm not going to get into spoilers, but like it is supposed to be based on a part of the world that is completely new, at least for the Pokemon realm, right? For over the last 30, and another big part of this is that this is the 30th year anniversary. This is Pokemon, looking back on 30 years. This is a big year. Looking back on 30 years of this franchise, of this world, of what they've done before. And yes, while I am hoping for a reinvention of a lot of core gameplay elements, I don't think it'd be, I guess what I'm saying is I think it actually would make sense for them to actually not only obviously bring along familiar faces like, Geodude and classic Ponyta, but to also introduce new faces that, again, fill these familiar roles. And I guess I also want to say that I don't think Black and White is the only Pokemon Pokedex to actually almost like redo or remix concepts from Generation 1. I don't think so. I mean, I guess you could say every generation has a regional bird, has a regional bug, has a regional rodent, right? Every generation has new starter Pokemon, right? The grass, fire, water trio. Like that's, and honestly, every generation has like a dark type, like an early stage dark type. There are a lot of tropes that exist, but I think you could even look at like Shroomish, for example, right? It's a 2-stage mushroom. We have that in Generation 1 with Paris. I think the designs are different enough and the concepts are different enough. The types end up being different enough. So Breloom doesn't feel like a copy of Parasect, but that's not for nothing. I think also Slaking, the super powerful normal type that loafs around, that's a remix concept of Snorlax. Like these aren't stretches. Like these are things I've been thinking about for years. So I do think a lot of these concepts are still here. Like even Aeron, right, being a rock type, but also a steel type, feels very similar to me to Rhyhorn, you know? Anyways, what I'm trying to say is I think in Generation 10 we can expect to see a lot of remixes of Generation 1 Pokemon. I guess you could take a look. I guess, again, not trying to spoil anything, but like if this region, for example, has a lot of snakes, we have a lot of snake Pokemon. We have a ton of snake Pokemon. But guess what? Maybe it has nothing to do with Arbok. Maybe they give us another King Cobra Pokemon, right? They could give us another King Cobra Pokemon, and it's just separate from Arbok, and it just lives separately from Arbok. That's great. I guess I want to take this another step further and say, because this is an idea I've been kind of thinking about for a while, a fun idea for Generation 10 would be they give us new starter Pokemon. And again, this doesn't impact the video game, but it does impact like just how it's just a cool idea. I think it would be awesome if like 2 of the starter Pokemon are on the box covers of of this game, right? Just like in red, blue, and yellow and green, right? It's like you get your starter Pokemon, and that starter Pokemon is represented on the box art. It's like you're choosing your starter before you even, right? That's the magic of it. Before you even buy the game, you choose which starter you want, and you still have that choice. But it's kind of cool. It's like it's like you're showing the world. Oh, I got red version because I love Charizard, right? That's what we already do with our box covers. You pick one and you go, yeah, Groudon's my goat, right? Palkia, I'm a Palkia head. I gotta have Palkia. And I think in Generation 7 and Generation 9, hey guys, sorry, the dogs are making weird Pokemon noises. In Generation 7, you get, so like unknowingly, the Pokemon that is along the journey with you the whole time, Nebby, right? Cosmog, evolves to become whatever you chose for the box cover Pokemon. And in Generation 9, like, you're not really, the box cover Pokemon isn't your starter, but it is a creature that you spend the whole game with. And so I don't think it'd be that crazy to see, and this is kind of off topic, but I don't think it'd be that crazy to see. I guess is what I'm trying to say is a new set of starter Pokemon that kind of reminisce Bulbasaur, Charmander, Squirtle is kind of what I was thinking. Like, I'm thinking about the archetypes of a water type turtle, a fire type lizard, a grass type frog dino, right? Again, kind of a reptile, an amphibian, right? Could we be seeing like a fire type lizard that evolves into a Komodo dragon? That's kind of sick, right? A water type Squirtle or turtle. What if it's a water type tortoise or a water type? I guess that's maybe too similar, but there's some cool things they could do with that. To also make it feel separate enough from Squirtle. So that's an idea on the starter Pokemon. But again, I just like the idea of them like whatever the starters are going to be. Put them on the box art. That's just kind of fun. Let's go deeper in this list because I think there's a lot of Pokemon that probably could be done a little bit better. Let's see. We've got something that I would love to see is more Pokemon like Dodrio I think are really interesting because it's like they're chimeras. It's like they have 3 different it's like they're 3 heads. We saw that a lot in Generation 5. The Pokemon Hydreigon kind of comes to mind, right? Vanillish, another 3-headed Pokemon. That's a very Generation 1 thing where I'm like, this would be kind of cool. I don't know. There's, I guess you can pick and choose any one of these Pokemon and be like, and try to remix it. I guess any of these are subject to be kind of remixed. And again, I'm not advocating necessarily for this. I'm not saying like, yes, I want them to do this, but I do think it makes sense. I mean, again, not only the 30th year anniversary, but like it's also Generation 10, which is 5 years after Generation 5, right? If you want to look at this like a pattern, there's no pattern, but like Generation 1 gets introduced, all these Pokemon, then 5 years later, or 4 generations later in Generation 5, we got all these brand new Pokemon that look like that first generation, right? Now, double that on the 10-year anniversary, Generation 10 on the 30th year anniversary. I guess it would make sense to take some of this magic, and I think that's my thesis, right? There is magic to this Generation 1 Pokedex, whether you want to believe it or not. I am an old man. I'm going to be 32. But still, I think there is some magic to these classic Pokemon designs. I think there's amazing designs, obviously, in every single generation, but I'm just saying, like, there is some magic here. At the very least, financial magic. And I think there's a pretty good opportunity that a lot of these Pokemon get scooped, remixed into new things. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's totally possible. This is the big year. This is the big chance. And I think I also just think it's a fun idea. That's kind of what that's also just kind of what I'm saying, right? Like, we could get a new evolution, right? That's not a remix. That's just a new evolution. But what if there's a new, I don't know, like, what if they introduce another Pokemon that evolves differently depending on what location it's in or whatever stone it's exposed to? And it's not Eevee, but it's a different type of Pokemon, right? It's like an Eevee for the next generation, right? New fossil types. I got to make, yeah. I'm thinking now, I kind of want to make a Generation 10 wish list. I think I'm going to do that video next. Guys, subscribe if you're new. I guess one more thing. What I think is really cool is that even some of the legendary Pokemon fit the archetype, or fit Generation 1 archetypes. Like, you have Mewtwo being this purple cloned creature controlled by the evil team. And in Generation 5, you have Genesect, this purple cloned bug artificially created by Team Plasma, the evil team. Like, I just think that's so cool. There's so many, like, crossovers like this, right? Even Kyurem kind of falls into that, except it's fusion rather than, you know, a cloning thing. And then you also have these, like, flying type creatures, right? You've got Tornadus, Thundurus, and Landorus. They're these, you know, roaming flying type legendaries that all kind of look the same, and they roam the region. Just so cool. I just think it's so cool. Yeah, let me know what you think. Would you want a soft reboot? Would you want a soft reboot in Generation 10? What are you looking forward to in Generation 10? Subscribe. This is the second channel. Check out the main channel for higher quality content. Love you guys. Bye.